Hello, hi.
Hi, Vaim. How's it going?
I'm perfectly fine. How are you?
All good, all good. I'm
Yeah.
going live
Okay.
after
So,
a long time, but I see a lot of your friends have joined in, a lot of your followers as well. I guess
yeah,
uh,
yeah.
some,
Okay.
some people from my profile is also going to join, but looking forward to
Hmm,
this.
hmm. Yeah. The first thing that I want to ask you, you know what, how you came up with this concept of entrepreneurship is it from your heredity or like you faced any situation particularly in life that you thought that ऐसा कुछ करना चाहिए जिंदगी में?
Now, I come from a family of entrepreneurs, so it's for me
Hmm.
very, very hereditary. Hi,
हाँ.
everyone who's joining in. My name is Meghdut. I am a serial entrepreneur, and as Veem was just asking, whether I became an entrepreneur by choice or did I learn about it or did it
हाँ.
genes. For me, it was very genetic. I come from a family of entrepreneurs and first generation entrepreneurs, in fact. So I learned a lot from them. I see some of my friends going, "Oh, Shahanadi. Shahanadi is a very, very well known singer in Bengal. I don't know
Oh,
how much if you
okay.
spent any time in Bengal or not, or do you know anything about it?
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I know, I know.
yeah. So
I studied in Bengal, in
you
Calcutta,
studied.
so I know.
Where did you study?
I studied in Aditya Academy. It's in Dumno. I
Ah,
think you are also in some parts with them.
yeah, yeah. They're the
No?
only friends of mine, Anirban and
Ha 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 ha.
yeah,
Yeah,
Anirban, Ankit. Yeah, I know them. They're
Ankit,
very
Ankit.
yes. Great,
Yeah.
yeah. So but same way for him as well. I think their father was a very
Hmm.
well-known entrepreneur. Started that, and then they've diversified into a lot of other different fields as well.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
yes, for me as well, it's been a lot in that space. Learning from the previous generations, but through my experiences and my work in various parts of the world, I've picked up enough entrepreneurship skills to actually take that business forward and build lots of new ventures. So that's what I do.
Yeah.
I think it's a great purpose in life as well to constantly innovate and to constantly create new products, new services, new
Hmm.
ways. That's something that I really enjoy.
Yeah. So, I came to know just while doing homework about you, that you are the Chief Innovation Officer in Techno India Group. People from Bengal knows Techno India very well because it's a huge platform for a lot of education purposes. There's something I want to ask you, with the this one with pandemic and things like that. A lot of youth are taking social media as their career. If you see about influencers, bloggers, and stuff like that. Just I want to ask you, like a lot of people jump into it, but after a certain point of time, when they see a failure, they think that are we in a right step? So, what do you think that before joining anything, understanding the business plays an important role?
So there's a lot of ways you can look at that, right? I think doing any kind of business, you need to have a very open mind that you are going to fail. There's no
Hmm.
there's no success that comes, overnight. It's not something like that. If
Uh,
people tell you when you're starting the
uh,
journey, you just start and you're gonna see successes from day one. It's really not gonna happen that way. You need to toil. You need to put a lot of effort into the kind of work that you do.
hmm.
I think the one core belief that I have is, every day I wake up in the morning and I look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, okay, I need to hustle. I need to
Uh,
sure that I'm there available for all of those people that you
uh,
need me.
uh,
And I need to ensure that people around me who work with me,
uh,
who every day contribute to the work that I do, they feel proud at the end of the day, right? It's very important to create that sense of trust, that sense of belief within the ecosystem of the people that you work with, and make sure that they're all aligned on that. So but that's a lot easier when you have a team, right? When most of the
uh,
people who are becoming social media influencers or who are becoming other kinds of influencers who are doing business e-commerce, let's say, because content creation has become such a big part of part of our lives today.
yeah.
The revenue models are not that strict. You don't have a team to push you and a team that you
Hmm.
can look up to, and it's not a reflection, it's not a mirror. A team usually is a mirror of the things that you do. um,
Hmm.
you don't have that. You're what in this case what's called a solopreneur, right? And solopreneurship
Yeah.
was very different back in the day, but because of the way that information is very easily available to everybody right now through the internet, becomes a lot easier for solopreneurship in general. So it's a low barrier to entry. If I have to put it in purely business terms, it's a low barrier to entry, but the chances of success are, it works like superstar economics. It works in the 1%, which makes it really big and have hundreds of thousands of followers. Now, also having hundreds of thousands of followers, a lot of people, what they don't realize, and I'm going to take this question to a slightly different angle, that sometimes some things click, right? There's, for example, this young girl who makes these really funny videos. I'm a huge fan. Her name is the Sound Blaze, the name of her profile, and she's like this Bhojpuri comedian, right? And it's like it's not very pretentious at all. It's like she makes fun of everyone and everything around her. She's maybe 14, 15, 16 years old tops, and she's very like relatable content that you would hear from a movie, maybe like a Gangs of Wasseypur kind of a movie, like हमारे गांव में चुत्तर धोने से पहले तमंचे चलाने सिखाते. I don't know, something like that. In a movie from Bollywood, but she really talks like that in real. And what I love about this girl and the way that she does content is that she doesn't appear to be something that she's not. She's actually a Bhojpuri girl, who comes from upper middle class family in I'm guessing I'm somewhere in Bihar or Chhattisgarh somewhere, and she makes content which is very relatable, and that's why she has got massive following. She does it. She's not pretending to be something else. So there's what I believe is when you're in the business of creating content, or you're in the business of anything, actually, what's very important is being true to yourself. Knowing that this is what I really want to do, and not trying to be somebody that you're not. This is very important.
Yeah.
Also, there is a lot of competition, of course, but I think what sets apart a good creator and not such a good creator is like intent and integrity in general. That I do this. Yes, at some point maybe a brand collab is going to come my way and I'll do it. But there's a lot of responsibility as well, because suddenly you go from being a nobody to being somebody who has certain amount of social following, right? And people are looking up to you. And when people are looking up to you, I think it's very important to realize that there's a certain amount of social responsibility in that process. That you can't just say something, you can't make bigoted statements, you can't say things that are politically incorrect, or it might end up hurting minority group. It doesn't matter in terms of their sexuality, their gender, their their caste. In India is a very complex country as such. You can end up hurting a lot of people in a lot of ways. So creating content which is not offensive to people is also very important. So if those things are all right, then I think you are good on the way of becoming a successful social media entity. And I think one last thing that sets apart a really good solopreneur in the journey of becoming a good content creator is knowing your target audience, right? I think a lot of people try to create stuff that they think is going to work for everybody. Nothing works for everybody. Like it's the same way as when you create a new business, you would first go ahead and do a market survey and figure out who your target audience is, so that you can sell to them. So don't end up going and doing lifestyle and food and fashion and all of it put together in a bucket, and nobody really understands what you're doing. Or if you're trying to be funny, then don't intersperse it with boring material in the middle. It doesn't really help. So choose your path. Choose a path that you think. Or if you want to review tech products, then do that seriously. Then do it in a funny way. I think somebody asked, who is he talking about? I was talking about this girl. I actually don't really know her exact name, but the name of her page is The Sound Blaze, and I think he's just content creator. Yeah, niche is very important. You're right. There's another, I personally also really look up to a lot of content creators for informative purposes, and I think not just from business, but I think there's a lot to learn. For example, and most of it is on YouTube, not as much as Instagram, because Instagram is more of an instant gratification platform. Like if it doesn't please you in 10 seconds, you are bored and you swipe. But the problem is you don't really learn anything in 10 seconds. Literally, it's very difficult to learn something in 10 seconds. So YouTube, I think, is my more go-to platform on where I can learn. And there are two very, very interesting creators that I am absolutely in love with their work. One is Bill Wirtz, who is a history fanatic, and this guy about everything. There's one called History of Japan. There's History of US, and he combines music, really edgy graphics, like 2D, really badly drawn graphics, and an amazing sense of history to put together these sort of 10 to 12 minute kind of content, and it tells you about how some of these countries got made and the history behind them. So I think that's a phenomenal channel that I love following, Bill Wirtz. There's another really, really interesting channel that I love following. It's called Map Men. When I was in school, I used to be really not very good at geography, so I couldn't really focus on geography. But I learned a lot more geography from this channel run by two guys. It's called Map Men, where they figure out bizarre questions like, what is the squarest country in the world? What if you have to become a citizen of another country which has 20 inhabitants, of an island? Why does the UK have the most difficult to pronounce city names ever? Really bizarre things you'd never think of, but look it up if whoever's watching. Batman is again very informative. That's another way of doing content, that you do your research and you make it really funny, and it's a mix of like really funny content but with super informative content. And I think for me personally, as somebody who really loves knowledge and information and constantly is like sucking up information, for me this kind of content really makes it I like it a lot more than random, I mean, I don't mind at the occasional skit on Instagram. But for me, when I'm looking at content creators that I have to talk about in public, I would rather choose a content creator like that.
Definitely. You were talking about content creation and also the business beside. So I want to ask you, like, being an entrepreneur, you also need to meet a lot of celebrities, entrepreneurs, and people from different backgrounds. And that certain point of time, there might be some people who don't know you, because it's not possible that everybody knows us. That point of time, you need to, understand the person, and you need to tell them what's your job. So what's your ice-breaking moment for that particular time? Because, for me, I need to do a lot of senior bureaucrats. So sometimes it takes time to do the ice-breaking. So how you go through that?
Very good question, actually. I don't think I've ever really actively put any thought into it. One of the advantages of having grown up in Calcutta for me, is the fact that a lot of people I already knew back in the day later on became business partners or became people that I interacted with later, and then a lot of the interactions work in like somebody introduces me to somebody else. I think the most way of meeting people is when you are not doing your own introduction, when somebody else does your introduction for you. So it's like a sort of third-party approach. For me, I've seen, especially with senior people, it works a lot better because it works in a way where somebody else endorses you almost, right? Okay, this is Meghdut, you should meet him because this is what he can do, right? So that's one way of going through introductions. But for me, another thing that I actively try out, I don't have to do that much in Calcutta anymore because the communities are small, and I think I pretty much know most people that I need to know in the city to get kind of my work done, and the rest they would know at least 10 other people in their circles who would know me. So Calcutta is a different story. I mean, I'm very much a Calcutta boy, so I don't have to do that anymore. But I love meeting new people when I travel. For example, I'm in Finland tomorrow. I'm going there, and then I'm in Estonia again because that's one of the countries that I absolutely love going to. Create innovation. I organize a lot of hackathons with the Estonian government, etc. So I'm going to be heading there tomorrow. And for me, when I go to these new countries where nobody really knows me or knew me before I started doing business there, it's about something that I call a what's that. And I'll give you a little example of it. I used to do that when I was living in Israel, for example. So Israel is, as you know, in Tel Aviv, for example, very, very active startup community, a lot of young people, and you need to know people to get anything done pretty much everywhere you're at in the world. So in Israel, what I did was I created these visiting cards which had no name on it. Okay, and on one side it just says appreciated. Okay, that's it. Just word appreciated. Beautiful clean font, just says appreciated. On the back was my phone number. Okay, that's it. So what I used to do is every time randomly I would meet somebody, let's say on a bus, and I'm the kind of person who goes up and talks to everyone. And I like, for me, my breaker is just me cracking a joke that is relevant, that seems relevant to this person about, or even making a nice compliment to somebody like, oh, you look like a very interesting person. Where you going? Something like this. Or, I love your shoes. Something you wouldn't believe how simple it is to make somebody smile and to also, register you as a person next to it, or like, oh, that's a nice suit, love your typing, love something. So that's called a what's that, something that you notice about somebody, and you have enough general knowledge or presence of mind to make up a story about that in the moment to get them into a conversation. I think that's sort of an icebreaker, and there's no real format for it. You have to figure it out along the way. And I've done that many, many times in many places, at conferences. I've made friends, I've made business partners, just going up and saying something to somebody which kind of like title shock value as well, but it comes from a good place, comes from a place of genuine interest. Like if you go up to somebody and say, hey, you know what, I love your bow tie, or I love your pocket square, I'd love to have one like that. Where did you get it from? Something as simple as that, it piques interest in people, and people love talking about themselves, so they're going to come and talk to you. Now, coming back to this card, the reason why it's important to have a way for people to recognize you as well is because just having a what's that is not important. You start the conversation, but there's no second level. Like, I can say, okay, you know what, I love your socks. I love socks as well. Where do you get those socks from? I'd love to have them. That's great. That person tells you in advance. You start a conversation, goes on for 5 minutes, then you're done. There's no way for that person to know who you are. So what I used to do after that point was I would take this card which said appreciated, and I just give it to them. And I appreciate your time, and I appreciate the conversation we had, and I give it to him. And then that person would probably forget about it in the moment, but later on, at some point, they would turn the card around and see my phone number on it. So if they ever wanted to get in touch, we're like, oh, that was an interesting guy that I spoke to. I'm going to give that guy a ring or whatever. He would just call me. And I think for me, that's something that works really well. It's a tried and tested model with the what's that, with a combination of a card, but it doesn't have my name or anything, because again, that's something that piques interest as well. I'm not trying to sell myself. I'm not trying to say, you absolutely need to get in touch with me. I'm not being like an annoying little person, on a bus or something. But and I also think a lot of it also comes with experience. The more you travel, the more you meet new people who are very different from you. I do it from a point of almost like naive need to learn, because I don't have the amount of not interest, I would say, but the amount of focus and composure to read as much as I used to before. So for me, a lot of my reading that I do is reading people, and I'm learning from people. So for me, it's almost like I absolutely need to meet new people all the time, so I can learn from them and ask them intriguing questions. I think one thing we don't realize enough is that when you want to create a new connection, talk less, listen more. Because the more that you want to listen to somebody, people love talking about themselves. If you go and start bragging about the things that you have done, you would never be able to understand what that other person does. So go with the idea that at the end of the day, during that conversation, it doesn't matter if they, if they know what you do. But are you going to give them a reason to remember you? Not because of your job title, but because of how interesting a person you are. And if you get that figured out, I think it becomes a lot easier to keep people interested, and it's like a lot of a longer term relationship you build with somebody.
I want to talk your three main entrepreneurship, or rather your three business. That's Blooper House, Topcat CCU, and Offbeat CCU. Okay, three different sort of business. Okay, so every time when you are talking with the managers or the person who is handling that business, I offer different mindset, because the person who is handling your rooftop cafe will be not the same person who is handling your recording studio. They both have a different perspective of life. So when you talk to them, they have their own different issues to share with you. How you hit the right point, or how you hit the right note to understand or keep a mark on that particular business with that particular person.
So what you want to know is it from the perspective of my managers who run the businesses, or are you talking about my customers?
I'm talking about entrepreneurship.
Yeah, but like towards my customers, right? If somebody's coming into my cafe, how would I them. Is that what you want to know?
No. So I want to ask you is like being a owner, if you talk about like being a owner or the head person, you need to handle different workers of your, cafe. Okay.
Right.
So
Yeah.
when you are talking with your cafe, that is a different situation going on. When you are talking about your recording studio, that's a different situation. So how you handle this different types of person in different businesses?
Well, it's a lot more than just these two. There's currently I'm involved in 11 businesses directly.
Yeah.
Currently own majority stakes in, and it's very different conversations. I mean, a cafe and a recording studio is a lot more closely connected than a startup that does business intelligence and data analytics, and a startup that does tutoring for students, right? And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
in like a lot of these different things. So for me, it's very simple. Um, I don't look at all of those businesses as separate entities. First of all, for me, it's like my day is separated into that many hours that I have. That's as much work I can do, and I need to find out in terms of importance to me, either financially or in terms of how important it is to me in a completely philosophical way, how important the business is. So that's how my first separation happens. Then what another thing that I do is I have a core team where one thing I've realized is you can't have too many people reporting into you. It's impossible to handle so many people. So in totality, there's almost about 5,000 people who work with me across everything, but I only 5 people reporting to me. So and then the separations happen from one point to the next, to the next, to the next, and everyone has different reporting structures. If I had to listen to problems of 5,000 people, I would never be able to get any work done. So it's very important, create levels of separation, create levels of abstraction. And, once in a while, I'm happy to listen to people's problems, if it's like a really important, emergency situation, but it's something that I'm not willing to do on a day-to-day basis. And which is the same reason, like, for example, I think about 400-500 messages on LinkedIn right now, which are pending my attention. But it's also very important to I know that about 80% of them are about people looking for jobs or internships. 10% people are looking for mentorship, and 10% have no clue what they want. And that's completely fine. But for me, if I have to put in my time from my schedule, it needs to make sense. So I only reply to my LinkedIn messages once, So I sit down one day, and the entire day, that's all I do. I just reply, I have conversations with people, but I can't afford to do that every single day because then I won't get any other work done. Another thing that I've realized more as an adult now that I'm, I have a partner, I have like responsibilities, I have a social life, I have a personal life, I have a lot of things going on. It's very important to take time off as well. I think when we talk about hustling, we talk about entrepreneurship, we talk about, okay, every day you have to be a better version of yourselves, all good and great. But if you don't have a brain that can process all of those different things happening simultaneously, you won't get any work done really. So I also have created like a very strong, okay, no work on Sundays, for example, like that one day a week, absolutely nothing at all. I go on, I'm technically on break now, but I was still working the first 10 days of my break. But from tomorrow onwards, for example, I really go on break. I go traveling. So everyone in this knows that, okay, from this date to this date, he's not available. There is no way, unless somebody dies, nobody's going to call me. Okay. So it's as strict as that this is time off of work. This is time for work. You do not disturb, past that time. I think in India, it's a lot harder to do. And I'm saying all of these things like I have it all figured out. I don't. In spite of creating all of these structures, inadvertently, somebody's going to call me at 1 a.m. and I will end up helping them because that's what you also do. And it's part of who you are. And especially with the second wave of COVID, the way I restructured my whole business, as was building hospitals, I was building, facilities for COVID in various parts of Bengal, fundraising, etc. I mean, exceptional times will always call for exceptional measures, and there are times in life where you work 16 hours a day and you won't sleep for 10 days, and it's fine. Things happen, but it's important to create sort of schedules for your regular life, or else you're going to go completely crazy. These are some ways that I sort of deal with it personally. I'm not saying it's the best way or the worst way or the only way to do it. Everyone's leadership style is different. It's about figuring out how you react to people coming up to you with their problems on be it a day-to-day basis. And it's about creating a very strict sort of structures around if you at all want to be contacted past a certain word, you have to create that rule. Like nobody else is going to do that for you. So, yeah, please go on.
Yeah, no, please tell.
No, I mean the last point that I wanted to say is also because I'm a huge believer in, like, I think I'm a bit of a polymath. I work with multiple sectors simultaneously with no problem at all. I think this is it's something that is also fairly genetic because I come from a family of super smart people, and then I'm very good at finding patterns and different things. So what I also end up doing a lot through my businesses is I make each of the businesses sort of work with each other. So I'm constantly cross-selling. So if I am doing something at Offbeat that I think is going to be interesting for say Blooper House, or if there's a potential cross-sell from the rooftop to a studio or vice versa, or having an offer from one of my startups to come and work out of like one of my co-working spaces or something like this. There's so many possibilities. I never cease to work on a cross sell like that, because that way it's a bit like what we are doing right now. We are cross selling, right? You got me on, so my followers know who you are, and your followers know who I am, and then you build a more then you build a bigger brand. You spoke about celebrity interactions, for example. It's something that I don't really do very much unless it's somebody that I really look up to myself. I would talk to them and whatever, or if they're already friends of mine. But it's also a way that their followers would get to know you, which is why I've seen a lot of young social media entrepreneurs constantly putting posts about other people, hoping that they would get noticed and that celebrity would share their thing and they would gain a few followers. I think it works out a lot better if your intent is good. It's not just about, okay, I put up a photo with somebody. If you want to actually achieve something from there, it's a cross sell, right? Like the story needs to make sense. So as an entrepreneur, it's always about the hunt for creating a story which actually works, and it's a story that you believe in as well. You can't get any kind of credits, be it social media, be it real, be it virtual, by pretending to be something that at the end of the day, it all comes back to that. Which is why a lot of my guests get very offended, I guess, sometimes, because I just, like, if I don't like talking to somebody, I just switch off. I would say, can you please wait outside, or my secretary will talk to you or something. So I don't think I make a lot of people happy, but I'm not here in this world to make people happy. I have limited time. I can only do so much. So, it's not on me to make everyone happy.
I hope you felt happy while talking with me.
Yeah, which is why it's been 30 minutes. We're still in this conversation. So I guess it's good.
Yeah.
You're asking good.
Yeah.
It works.
So, I won't take much of your time. There's a last question that I want to ask you, is that you have been working in Bengal for many years. If we talk about Techno India Group as India, so I want to say, like, you have also worked in different parts of the country in India. You said you are working with Estonia government and also different parts of the globe. What's your view on the business or entrepreneurship with youth attachment, comparing our country and globally? How do you look into it in coming years?
Ooh, this can take a bit of time to answer, because it's not very simple. I think psyches in different parts of the world are very different. India has a very different way of doing entrepreneurship. I think we believe in a lot more jugaad than anyone else. So that's something that I absolutely love about our country. It's something that I wrote my thesis on when I was working on it on my during my master's, and I figured that the way that we do entrepreneurship is different from everywhere else in the world. Everywhere else in the world, people work in a lot more structured fashion. Like they'd create a business plan, they would, ROIs, they would make the profit and loss, they would make a projection for 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, and do all of that work from scratch. In India, we just dive into it and sort of figure out jo hoga dekha jayega kind of situation. Now there's pros and cons to both ways of working. I think a good balance can be drawn from both of them. I am more on the Indian front. I'm a bit less structured than I would like to be. But now as my businesses grow and my newer ventures sort of grow, what I've realized is, in order for making sustainable businesses, it's very important to have your projections right in order to know if you're going right or wrong. For example, Offbeat, let's take an example and do it. Okay, let's say Offbeat is a 5-story building which has two F&B units, one live entertainment unit, a comedy club, a backpackers hostel, various classrooms for interdisciplinary learning and education. There's a skill development segment. There's a gym. There's MMA. That gives us already 10 different business verticals, right? If I don't know that which businesses are feeding my other businesses, as in some businesses are obviously going to be in surplus, some are going to be in negative, knowing which businesses are coming up in front and which businesses are lagging behind, that's the only way I can project for what I want to do next. And if I don't do that exercise continuously, the business will not grow. What ends up happening is some of them I will never put enough effort into, some of them I will end up putting more effort into, and then eventually I'll have to close down some of the businesses. So, that's one way of looking at the whole thing. Another thing is about failing. I think this is an important conversation we don't have enough in India. So in India, it's something that if you start something, if it doesn't work out, like it's the end of life. You're done. What will log kya kahenge? I took that effort, and it also happens because a lot of people come from not that much privilege. Like it's a lot easier for me to say because I come from privilege. Like I know that if 5 of my businesses don't work out tomorrow, it's okay. I'll figure out something else to do. I'm privileged in every way. I've studied at top schools. I have my network is across the world. If it doesn't matter if I have to stay in Calcutta or in any random part of the world, I'm sure I can do something there. And on top of that, I have a family business. There's so many other things that are working. Not everyone has that advantage, right? So a lot of people's hopes and dreams are built into that one project that you're doing. It must succeed or else everything is over. Now, what I want to say on this is it's not really like that. I think there's a way of building multiple income streams. As an entrepreneur, I'd always focus on that. Build multiple income streams. Don't put all your eggs in the same basket. Like if you know that you're making good money off of one vertical, one project, one product, don't keep everything, in one particular, basket, because that's the way that it works. Keep moving your resources, your revenue streams on various different verticals, because that's what will keep you active, not just in terms of your scope of how you can create new opportunities, but you have to keep yourself growing as well. This is going to be very important. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about how we can create more value from multiple business streams and not just from one business stream, because that's, I think, going to be very important for the way we look at business ahead. And in terms of young people, if you ask for youth engagement, I think that's always super important. I have a lot of faith in the way that that young generations are going to change the way that we look at the world, and for that we have to be better at creating newer opportunities for them, be it in terms of self-employment, be it in terms of entrepreneurship, creating the right kind of platforms. So in days to come, hopefully, we'll see more interested entrepreneurs, in fact, who are of the world around them, who are well-read, well thought out what exactly is happening in the world of entrepreneurship globally, and teach themselves to be a better version of themselves every day. And that's also important.
Thank you so much for joining, and also looking forward to you to someday work with your organization, and because I'm always hustling to work with the bureaucrats and portray the real heroes of our country. So I hope we can do something someday. And thank you once more for giving this time and opportunity.
My pleasure. Lovely talking to you, Veem, and hope you grow much higher and keep building your brand, your personal brand. You're doing a good job, and I hope the work that you do is able to give focus to a lot of young people as well, and let young people know about the beautiful stories of bureaucrats in our country, of people who are achieving. Cheers. Good luck.